Right. Well, continuing to talk about General Conference, right? And I think all of our predictions, the entire makeup of it has changed and shifted now that President Nelson has passed away, and it's President Oaks, right? His new tenure. And so, let me move it back one here. There we go. And so I kind of feel like maybe a lot of talks are being rewritten. Maybe some quotes.
Yes, they've got to swap out all those quotes from President
Mm-hmm.
Nelson and make them President Oaks quotes.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking, that's what they'd be doing. And I don't know for sure, but I'm even more intrigued now as far as what's happening behind the scenes right now and what we may see this weekend. So one of the big things is, did you guys realize that it's the 30th birthday of the family, a proclamation to the world? This is a huge deal. This came out in 1995, and it has been used like a sword ever since then. And I just wanted to point out that
I think that Chieko Okazaki was in the Relief Society presidency at the time, wasn't she?
She was, and I'm glad that you pronounced her name correctly, because I butchered it on a podcast that I'm putting out on Tuesday. So when I come to a quote by her, I'm just going to let you pronounce her name. But I did go
over
it
because I mispronounced it in another episode earlier.
I know, she's such a beloved. I mean, she was literally a female rock star. And I think she kind of got Uchtdorfed a little bit. You know, when anybody kind of rises, they can't stand that. The ones that have personality or charisma. So, but I did notice just one day over on the church newsroom, there were these are only some of them, 15, stories about the proclamation, all kinds of things, anything you've ever wanted to know, and people talking about every aspect of it. So I kind of perused those, looked through them, and thought, okay, I'll dig in a little more tomorrow when I have time. And one story in particular I was really curious to read was titled, "What Led to the Creation of the Family, a Proclamation to the World?"
And I scanned that article when I first saw it, because I wanted to see if they were going to say anything about the gay marriage case that was winding its way up the Court of Appeals in Hawaii, which is why the whole proclamation was written from the first place, was so to give the church standing so they could file amicus curiae briefs in that case.
Exactly.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, no, I think we were all very curious. And again, I skimmed it like that for another podcast that I'm putting out on Tuesday, and wanted to go back the next day and look for exactly what you were talking about, RFM. What does the church say led to the family proclamation, right?
Can I just say, before you change this, the huge thing is that this is a complete rewrite of history. This is not what led to the creation of the family. This is a family proclamation. This is what the church wants you to believe led to the creation of the family proclamation, while they're lying to you by not telling you the real reason that led to the creation of the family proclamation. And for some reason, what happened, Rebecca?
For some reason, so the next day I go back, right? And here it is on all the different ways that you can access the article. There's a picture of it. There's another post over here. There's that. Every single one I clicked on, and this is within 24 hours, we still haven't found what we're looking for. It was gone. The article was gone. And that made me extraordinarily curious about what had actually been in it. Because like I said, I just skimmed it. You skimmed it. Your skimming is probably better than me, RFM, because you've gone to law school. You probably, can speed read better than I can. But I was incredibly curious. So I went over on Ex-Mormon Reddit, and I said, oh my gosh.
Quite a long article.
Really long article. And I said, hey, this is gone. And then somebody said, oh, it's still open on a tab on my phone. And I said, screenshots, right? Exclamation point.
Don't close the tab.
So I know, I'm telling you, ex-Mormons, we bring the receipts. So this person made a post of this article, and it's extremely long, as you can see. There it is. There's the article.
Have you read it closely yet?
I've read a lot of it. There is no mention of Hawaii, but
no mention of Hawaii, though.
I think the reason that they took it down, and it was written by an intern, right? It was written by an intern. And I think they took it down because, they're promoting this as a revelation. And this definitely has steps and timelines of people meeting and talking and revising. To a faithful member, that might be information they weren't aware of. You know what I mean? The other thing that's interesting here is that they have all these pictures of the women of the church that contributed, right? They have all these pictures of the different Relief Society presidencies and female leaders that they're kind of alluding to had some kind of hand in it. This is not the case at all. The women were preparing for their women's conference. Remember how that used to be the week before regular conference? They had their talks written. They had everything ready to go. They were called into First Presidency's office, President Hinckley, and they're like, here it is. We're going to announce this. Now you go be prayerful about it. So everything in the article that says the women prayerfully considered, that was when they were told to consider 3 days before their conference. And they had to rewrite all of their talks to support this new proclamation. Yeah. Now, here's our favorite person who you're talking about.
What's her name, Rebecca?
I can't say it. And I actually choked on the first name. Is it Chieko?
Yes.
Okazaki?
Yes.
Okay. Sister Okazaki. All right. So she said, it says, after the family proclamation to the world was written, the Relief Society presidency was asked to come to a meeting. We did. And they read the proclamation. It was all finished, she said. This is in Dialogue, a Journal of Mormon Thought. The only question was whether they should present it to the priesthood meeting or at the Relief Society meeting. And it didn't matter to me where it was presented. What I wanted to know was, how come I wasn't consulted, right? Boy, she was.
Let's say we though.
Huh?
It says we.
Yeah. How come we weren't consulted, right? She's a pistol. The apostle, who was the woman's liaison, said, isn't it wonderful that he, President Gordon B. Hinckley, made the choice to present it at Relief Society meeting? Okazaki said, well, that was fine. But as I read it, I thought that we could have made a few changes in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think that article was pulled just because it inflated the women's role. The role was nothing. It was non-existent. And it also
did not have this part in it.
No. This is what I'm showing the real story. This is what really happened. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think it just went through too many steps that you're like, is that how Revelation works? Well, a lot
really,
of us know,
how ridiculous to think that presenting it at somebody's meeting. And by the way, Rebecca, point of order, it was not. They did not have a conference session. Women did not have a conference session. Then.
Yeah, it wasn't
a meeting. It was not part of conference. It was not considered part of general conference.
You're correct.
At the time. So
yeah, and it was every other year. Yeah, you're right. And the men stayed home and made donuts when it was the women's meeting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's totally what we did. We were out having fun and not making donuts. I can tell you that.
Exactly. No, I'm sure that's true. So yeah, it's a really interesting history. And my curiosity, of course, is conference. What are they going to say about the proclamation? I think they were probably going to say more about it now with the death. I think they'll have to talk more about President Nelson and succession and the new prophet. But I feel like we're going to have so many talks that are going to sing the praises of this document, talk about, how the women had a hand in it. I'd like everybody to kind of look for that and kind of see what they're saying as opposed to reality. And there are lots
people were wondering if finally they would get around to canonizing this family proclamation. Yeah. What do you think about that, Bill?
Yeah. If they would have
We've been wondering a long time, right? If they would do that the next conference. But it is 30 years. They've had a whole bunch of people talking about it. They have Holland out there, trying to talk about more scriptures coming, which they've been saying all the time. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to canonize.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, we do have a little video from President Holland just a week or so ago where he holds up the Book of Mormon and he says, there's more scripture coming. This is only a piece of it. So, and this is President Oaks's baby. You know what I mean? So I don't know. What do you think, Bill? Is there a chance?
What we need is more scripture that the Mormons won't read.
Yeah.
On one side, we've got stories that have come out of the church with people like Elder Holland or D. Todd Christofferson not being happy with how the 2015 policy came into effect. And you've had lots of folks working behind the scenes to share the hurt and the pain that policy has caused. And so it seems like a strange thing, knowing all of that, for the family proclamation to be made into scripture. Separate thing, but sort of connected. Mm-hmm. I will say this to what you just said, Rebecca. In 1984, I believe it was, maybe earlier, 1981, Elder Oaks was brand new in the Quorum of the 12, brought in as a lawyer, former Supreme Court Justice of Utah. And he created a document for the church that laid out how the church would handle homosexuality going forward. That document is still available. I'll look for it as we move on after the story. But as you said, this is his baby, the family proclamation. He is the lawyer in the top leadership who has had the agenda of helping the church deal with homosexuality. There's no doubts his fingerprints are on everything that went into the family proclamation. This is his moment.
Yeah.
He really does get whatever he wants if he's the prophet of the church. It'll be interesting to see happening this weekend.
It would be a jam-packed conference if they actually tried to balance all of these plates. You know, the 1995 Family Proclamation, the death of President Nelson, and the massacre in Michigan.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm. It
would
really
be, it would actually be a good conference.
I was going to say, I had kind of said, I'm not going to watch it. I'm only going to watch RFM's recap because, you know, sometimes you need a break. But now I've got my popcorn ready. So,
but my expectation is it will just be as boring as ever. They will let this opportunity pass by them to be interesting.
Yeah, you're probably correct. So we'll have to watch. It'll be interesting and we will see. So, but yes, proclamation, we don't know. Place your bets here, I guess.